you're listening to Two Small Biz Guys with Zen Benefiel and
Ray Silverstein,
who's back in town this week. So this evening's guest is Colission Wells, who is the owner-manager of Pegasus Utility Locating Services here in Phoenix.
And not only that, he's also the founder.
He is founder, owner, manager. He's like the guy with all the chief cook and bottle washer, right?
How are you doing this afternoon?
Did you do all that when you started?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I actually worked for probably the first 5 years doing everything, from doing all the work, going out, making the contacts, doing the paperwork. Everything that had to be done was up to me for the first 5 years of business.
Well, that's kind of, any small business is usually a lot of, it's top heavy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, you wear a lot of hats no matter how long you're in the business.
Yeah, I've been called a mini hat monk.
So is that why it's top heavy, because of all the hats?
You bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we were talking before.
Depends on the size of the brim.
That's true. Yeah. But we were talking before, how did you get into this business of underground utilities and looking for all these various things?
I came into this industry initially by way of doing seismic surveying. I worked in seismic surveying from 1980 to mid-1983.
Now, what is that exactly?
Seismic surveying,
Yes.
You would be looking for oil deposits.
Okay.
Or possibly even locating intercontinental telephone lines.
Okay.
Or
I thought you might be looking for fault lines or, potential earthquakes or something like that, because those are all those seismic occurrences, right?
You can find oil deposits on my garage floor.
Yeah, that's true.
I think they were a little deeper than that.
Oh, a little deeper, okay.
He doesn't do the cursory approach.
No.
Oh, he's more sophisticated.
He's penetrating.
Yes.
We try.
Right.
We try.
So you got started in, what got you initially interested in it once you started doing the seismic surveys?
Well, what happened was I actually got injured working offshore, and I was laid up for about a year and a half, and I felt like if I came back to Arizona, because I was initially based here in the military.
Okay.
And
Luke,
I liked the area.
Luke or Williams?
Williams.
Okay.
I spent about a year and a half or so at Williams Air Force Base before I shipped out to Europe, and I decided that I was going to come back at some point in time. Well,
Crazy fool.
Yes, I know. I didn't think about all
You
the
forgot
heat
about
I have
the
to deal
summer.
with.
Did you get your initial experience and training from being in the armed forces?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
So what type of training did you go through at that time?
At that time, I was an air operations specialist. I worked right on the flight line doing flight plans for pilots.
Wow. Okay.
That's a little different. So you went from the air to under the ground.
Yes, absolutely.
But at least you weren't 6 foot under.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
So with the ground penetrating systems, what all kinds of things are you able to do, and what do people look for you to do?
Well, I've had requests to do everything from locating existing utilities such as water lines or electrical lines, or
like for pre-construction work?
Pre-construction
like that?
work, yes.
Okay.
It's usually the best time to do it is before the construction project has ever started.
Right.
During the engineering phase of the project.
Yeah,
initially.
you don't want to stick a backhoe in the ground and hit a power line or cable or something.
There are those times when that happens,
it does,
and then
yeah.
they call.
Right.
But the best time is during the engineering phase, so that you map out the location of the existing utilities.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, when the project is actually started, you don't have downtime because you're coming across utilities that you don't know exist.
Right. Some of the things I used to do partnering workshops for building road and bridge construction,
Okay.
ADOT and Federal Highways
Right.
and National Park Services. And a lot of those meetings, those kind of issues are some of the things that come up where you look at the plans, you know what's there, you kind of got a good feel for what you're going to find, but it's not really in the plans, but you want to let everybody know that, hey guys, these indicators here might reveal that this is going to be there, and you need to really check that well.
And that's what we use as the key indicators for what utilities are in the area by what you can physically see.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no maps, which unfortunately on the private side of utility locating,
Right.
the majority of the time there are no maps. So we are called in to locate all of the utilities that are in the area so that they will know there is something there. If it's in the footprint of the building they're putting in, or in the path of a new line that they're installing, or even to locate a line that they're in the process of, or need to repair.
So you put all the paint lines on the outside, and do you also create maps for the owner of the property or for the general
We
contractor?
do have the ability to create maps for the property owners, and we have done that in the past, and we will be getting more into it because we're also getting into the survey side.
Do you ever get a little creative with the lines that you leave?
No. No. But I do say that we are one of the only companies that can actually perform legal graffiti.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Now, do you put a little signature on it so we know that who Pegasus was here?
No, not necessarily. What
No
we
wings,
want to
huh?
do is to what we really want to do is to locate the path of those lines so that the contractor knows where they are, and then those lines are actually color coded.
Mm-hmm.
And the color codes for those lines, just for instance, would be red for power, blue for water, green for sewer, yellow for gas, oranges for communications, whether it be, say, Cox Communications for TV, or
Right.
for communications for CenturyLink.
So you basically look for anything that's underground,
Yes.
or are there items that really not in your area that you look for?
There are no items that we do not look for. There are items that are not conducive to being located. And some of those items would be, say, water lines. Water lines that are being carried in plastic.
Right. I've
Conduit.
noticed a lot of homes will have an old 3/4-inch PVC line that runs from the meter to the house, or a
But-
1-inch line.
Well, the thing is that you can't see that.
Right.
What you see rising up is a galvanized pipe or a copper pipe coming
Right.
up to the side of the house.
The only reason I found that out is we had a broken line.
And most people think, oh, well, it's metal because it's coming up. Well,
No.
but you find that it goes down underground, and right at the turn, it transitions, or they use the connector and turn it into plastic because metal is so much more expensive
Right.
to put in.
Right.
Unfortunately, they don't put what we would call in the industry a tracer wire.
Right.
Tracer wire is a small
Right
gauge
alongside
wire,
the-
probably
yeah.
a 12-gauge wire that you would connect to with a pipe and cable locator, the transmitter portion of it, and then follow that with a receiver. If they did that, life would be a lot easier, but they're starting that process, and they have been working on it for a while. But there is so many utilities in the ground already that don't have anything to trace them with.
Right. And back when they put them in, they really didn't think about doing all of those things. Or they don't think about the future.
It wasn't a requirement.
Right.
That's why I also like to consult with especially engineering firms or municipalities or anyone that'll listen to me. Let me put it that way.
Well, you got a lot to listen to. You've been in this business for decades.
So
A couple of decades,
so they
yeah.
call you in when they need a consultation, an expert type of a viewpoint.
Not as much as I would like to.
Oh,
But
okay.
they do call us in. Unfortunately, sometimes you aren't called in until they've already had a damage.
Right.
It still happens.
Now,
But the ones that have been around for quite a while and know that they need to have the utility locating portion of the work done prior to starting the digging are the ones that you really want to deal with because they have a better idea of what's going on.
As a quick digression, I noticed that you also do expert witness
Yes.
activity.
Yes.
Is that for what? When there's a circumstance underground or something?
If you have a situation where you need to go to court, they want someone that has been in the industry long enough to understand what should have been done and let them know how you would do it. So, yes, I have had that certification now for I take it about 2 years or so.
So to be an expert witness, you really have to be an expert in all these activities of this underground surveying.
It helps. Otherwise, they don't
would
want you
imagine.
to come into court with them.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break here for just a minute. We'll be right back with Colission and Ray and myself. And thanks for listening to Two Small Biz Guys. Welcome back to Two Small Biz Guys with Colission and Ray and myself. We're talking about underground services and specifically locating utilities and the like and all that stuff that you hope you never hit when you're digging. and he's one of the guys that will help you find it so you don't hit it and save you lots of money in the process.
Yeah, he's your safety protector. Make sure you don't run into it.
Well, if you can call it damage prevention.
Damage prevention. Okay.
He has some groundbreaking services.
So when you run into it, you say, "Oh, drat." Is that it?
Well, damage prevention is the ability to go out and locate the utilities to make the work site a safer place for the contractor so that he doesn't slow his work down, and for the people working for him, for the contractor, so that they don't get injured in the course of doing their construction.
Is there a certain type of size of job that they need, that they call you in for, or is it any type of construction?
I work on a job from an hour long to months at a time.
Well, I mean, but does it have to be like a 1,000 square foot structure, or is it going to be 100,000 square foot structure?
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter about the size of it. It's what utilities are there, and they still need to be mapped out no matter how big or small the job is.
Well, it looks like you've had some really large involvement. Deer Valley Airport, East Cargo Apron Extension at Sky Harbor. Well, actually several areas at Sky Harbor.
We've done work for years there.
What
did you find any bags that were lost at Sky Harbor when you did the baggage? I'm concerned about that.
I'm sure they disappear, but
still might be there. So I
little
just
buried treasure here and there.
I didn't think they buried anything out there at the airport. Somebody walked away with those, unfortunately.
So you could,
have you ever found any
buried treasure?
Yeah. Have you ever found anything that was really unique or valuable, or artifacts or anything like that?
Not really. We have done the investigations of these areas, but we typically do not do the digging to uncover them. We have worked in graveyards. We've worked on roadways. We've worked in apartment complexes and hospitals. You name it, we've worked. We've had our hands on and put our fingerprints on places all over the state of Arizona from one end to the other.
So they let you do the painting work, but you can't get into the sand pile and play.
No.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want to get in there with a shovel and play anyway, but we do excavation, but we use vacuum excavation systems, which can utilize either air or water to loosen up the soil, and then they're sucked up by the large vacuum system.
Dude. Just suck it up. Get over it. So what are some of the most unique voids or things that you've found that you can talk about?
We've found artifacts from time to time, Native American artifacts. You can find those. We've found
now, did they have to stop construction when those things?
If you find those, then it takes a different kind of investigation,
right?
A more in-depth investigation, because you don't want to destroy
the
remnants.
How do you know that you come across an artifact when you're looking from above the ground down into?
You really don't know what it is until they start. When I say they, I mean the contractor starts the digging.
But you just say this is something unusual.
This is an anomaly. And if I'm locating a utility,
like me, Ray, it's an anomaly.
That's right. Where do we bury you?
Yeah. No, I'm an anomaly.
He said he worked in graveyards. So.
Yeah, I've done that before. But we would use different types of pipe and cable locators. You would connect the transmitter to, say, an electrical line or a communications line, and then you would use the receiver to follow the path of that line, and then you would mark that path with paint. And if you are doing a gridded area for ground penetrating
dotted dash or line?
Well, first I dot it
Or do you
out
have fun with
as I
Morse
go
code
along.
in the process
I
just to
do
see
both.
if anybody can pick it up?
I actually do both because in the process of going out and finding the line, before I put down big marks,
Right.
I put down little dots and follow it to where it ends, and then I know I'm in the right place. Then on my way back, I'll verify my marks and put larger lines so that they know what's there. I'll color code it
They
so
can't
that
mistake it.
They can't mistake it. And I'll color code it with the correct paint so that they know whether it's water or electric or telephone or whatever the case
Now,
may be.
with the equipment that you've got, are there differences in the types of equipment that you use to locate different types of, whether it's water or power or
You will.
cable services or stuff like that, phone?
The thing is, these days, the equipment is much more sophisticated.
So it kind of covers everything.
So everyone has their favorite
Mm-hmm.
piece of equipment that they like to use. And I have a number of pieces that I enjoy, but there are so many frequencies.
I like a
now.
lob wedge myself.
But since you mentioned the sophistication equipment, how much training is required for people to participate and work with you?
Wow. The average person that comes to me, I like to have a minimum of 3 to 5 years because that's the basics. The work that we do is not the basic work anymore. What we do is to locate the utilities and create maps of the location of those utilities.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go out and use, if we're really lucky, we get a map that has some of the utilities on it.
Well, and those maps that you create, then those go back into the project plans for whatever construction they're
Or the future,
one of the
or
pages
future
that's
use.
included
Yes,
in those,
absolutely.
100-page documents with all the
Yeah.
call-outs.
Or
So-
they take that information and they give it to a surveyor and they create CAD drawings and then create those as-built from that.
Right.
So when you mention people who have 3 to 5 years of experience, what kind of experience is that? Within the field, or is it they have to have experience in electronics or metallurgy or whatever?
Well, they basically, the best thing is to have experience that on-the-job training, locating the basic utilities. And the basic utilities would be your gas, your power, your cable TV, those types of utilities. Those are usually mapped relatively well.
Or if you hit something, many people are going to suffer.
Many people can
With
suffer.
program you're watching.
Many
Right,
people
right.
can suffer, but you
Preempted
also have
programming.
the power lines,
Right.
which can kill you. You hit that with a backhoe, a shovel, a pick, it can kill you.
Mm-hmm.
You hit a gas line, it can create an explosion that ripples. It can create a ripple effect, and I think you've heard of areas that have actually blown up because someone dug into a gas line.
Right.
And that happens. So the work that we do is very important in that it is meant to avoid those damages and to avoid people losing their life. You always want to make sure that your employees or the contractor's employees go home safely every
Right.
night.
And the barbecue has the right flavor.
No human.
Right. Yeah, it's a little
Absolutely.
smelly.
So go ahead.
No, hey, we were just being
Age
synchronistic with the
before beauty,
sows.
so go ahead.
Hey, your caricature looks better than mine. So
That's
go ahead.
true.
Yeah.
That's true. So how do the contractors find you, or how do you find the contractors to get involved with this?
We've been very lucky in that I've been in this business as a contractor for 22 and a half years now. The majority of
You
the
must
work...
have started when you're 16.
No, I was a little older than 16. I've actually been in the industry for 33 years. But being in the business for 22 years, you find that if you put forth a good effort and do good work, you get passed along to other contractors that are needing someone to perform the same service. And we've done good work over the years. You can't please everyone, but you do your best to please the people that you're working for every time you go
Well,
out.
it's pretty evident that you've done fairly well because you've grown. You do have some really great history with the jobs that you've had.
Thank you.
And everything that you've done.
Yeah, being founded in 1994 and still in business, that is an accomplishment nowadays.
I've been told that that's actually an accomplishment to have the same name and still be in business after
Sure.
22 years. So.
And that name, by the way, is Pegasus Utility Locating Services, and you can actually find them on the web at WWII. That gets kind of old because you don't need that anymore. You can just plug PegasusUtility.com.
Yes.
Can I do with the www? And then
You-
what I put in after that?
You can do that. You want to spell Pegasus like Pegasus?
Yeah,
right?
flapping my arms.
Yes,
Yeah.
Pegasus is spelled Pegasus, and then utility, UTILITY.com.
Oh, you do far better than I do. Spelling is not one of my strengths.
I know. I got to proofread all your stuff. So the business since 91 has been just a really wonderful thing for your life, for your employees, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get back from these commercial messages. And we all want to thank you for listening in to Two Small Biz Guys. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Two Small Biz Guys with Zen
And Ray.
and
Colission Wells.
Colission. You know, that has got to be one of the most unique names that I've seen in a long time. Where'd that come from? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, I don't mind you
kind
asking.
of have a sidebar here. Yeah, who are you?
It comes from Colossians, the people of Colossians. In the
Okay.
Bible. So, my mother named me Colission.
Wonderful. Well, as long as we don't have any collisions with Colission,
We don't
we'll
need
probably
any
be
of
all right.
those.
Yeah, this is all about harmony.
We try to avoid that.
Yeah, we don't want any groundbreaking. We just want to find the things and avoid the problems.
That's why he's there, to avoid any groundbreaking.
Exactly. So we're looking at the different types of equipment and things that you do, the underground utility locating, fault locating, your fault, my fault, his fault, their fault. I don't know.
Our fault.
Yeah, it is. Metal detection, potholing. I thought those were in the road.
Wait a second. That must be very big in Colorado.
Yeah. That's where the vacuum excavation takes
So
place.
do you get a lot of calls to go to Colorado?
No, I
for
do
potholing?
not.
Yeah.
No.
So then he's got the ground penetrating radar, which I'm sure is really complex. We'll get back to that in a minute.
Okay.
Structure scanning, concrete scanning, surveying, asset management tools, leak detection.
I'm
Ray,
not going to touch that one.
Yeah, you got your depends on? Okay. UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles. Oh, we're talking drones now.
Yes, we are.
You've got to get into that. I thought we weren't going to get into collisions.
Well, try
Fiber
not
optic cabling. I'll just drop that. Core drilling, smoke testing and utility conduits, and smoke testing in sewers. Now, there's some really interesting things there. But let's start out with the ground penetrating radar.
Okay.
You know, that I know that's been developed kind of way back, but
Yes.
It's gotten really sophisticated. What all does it take to know and use that well?
It takes time. It takes the experience of being able to go out and utilize the equipment and then learn how to interpret the data that you're looking at.
So do you look at a screen?
You're
Do you
looking
look
at a screen.
printout? Okay.
You're looking at a screen. It's in real time. So as you're rolling this cart along that has a antenna sitting on the bottom of it and a monitor that is up top that you're looking at the entire
So radar,
time.
so you're pulsing. Is
Right.
It, is
It's
it
sending a
electromagnetic
pulse. It's sending
or,
a pulse out and
Okay.
receiving that pulse back. And
is
then
it color
on the
coded
screen,
too? Like you're
So how does a person learn to interpret this?
time.
I took a short course,
A short
a
course.
very short course. The course was probably a day and a half to 2 days.
And then
but-
25 years of on-the-job learning?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been using this equipment now for 12 years, and there's always more to learn. You never get to the point where you know everything, no matter what equipment that you use. But ground penetrating radar is probably one of the more complex pieces of equipment that you can use, because you can do what they might call a single line scan, so that you're going out and simply surveying and locating or marking the location of the anomalies that you're finding, or you would lay down a grid.
Now, are there different frequencies that you use for the radar to find specific lines, or is it just a thing that the lines show up differently?
It doesn't work. The lines will show up differently.
Okay.
They will give you what's called an anomaly or a hyperbola.
Now, do you use different equipment depending
No parabolas.
No parabolas.
Just hyperboles.
No hyperboles either.
Oh.
That's a gross exaggeration. But do you use different kind of equipment depending upon maybe the complexity of the terrain or what was there possibly before? When do you know when to bring different types of equipment in?
Well, there's a list of questions, and when I say a list of questions, these questions are formulated because of the experience I have doing the work, not just a list of questions that I ask everyone. I would not ask someone that wants to use ground penetrating radar the same questions that I would ask someone that would be doing your typical day-to-day locating. Your typical day-to-day locating would be performed using pipe and cable locators. If you're using ground penetrating radar, you're looking for anomalies that were not found, that you don't know what's there. So you're mapping out or gridding the area that you're looking at specifically. You run your X and your Y axis. You have a 0 point, and you run your axis on this. Once you finish running your grid, you would then process this information on your machine, and then you can, once you know how to interpret what you're seeing, you can look from the ground level down to 10 or 12 feet.
So you're kind of doing ground forensics.
Yes.
So when this comes up, do you have to tell the client what type of equipment or how thorough you might have to be when you go through your question list? Or
yes. It's according to how thorough the client wants to be with what they're looking for. If they want to get in depth, the best way to do that would be to run a grid. Because when you run that grid, you're putting all of these lines together. They're overlapping each other, which gives you much more data to process. As you process that data, you can look down, as I said before, from the ground level down into the ground. You can tell what depth it's at. If you know how to use the equipment correctly, you can take slices of this information and look into the ground.
Now, do you ever get involved with the environmental aspects of looking over the ground, like leaks in pipes or things like that?
You can, if you're looking for leaks in pipes, typically you would either use a leak detector, but now they have equipment that is called asset management tools. And what an asset management tool, it encompasses the use of a leak detector, a locator, and a camera. So
you don't have the stock market's not going down and you're leaking out of your funds. It's a different kind of asset management tool.
You create a access point to put the equipment into an active water line so that you do not have to shut it down. It can still be active. You can use this equipment to locate the path of this line, even if it's PVC or clay, because it has what they call a SON, a locator beacon that's giving off a signal.
Okay. Why do they call it asset management?
Asset management, because it will help you tell when your utilities are deteriorating, because you can see what they look like from the inside. You can see corrosion. You can see the buildup of sediment in the pipe. We get
a lot of that here.
Yes, you do. If you have a leak on that line, it can listen and hear the position of that leak so that you can locate the position of the leak above ground and tracing the path of it.
Now, can you also do this through concrete or other surfaces, or just have to be over ground?
Absolutely. Concrete does not hinder you from using an asset management tool.
Now, you mentioned earlier in one of our conversations that Arizona creates kind of some very challenging situations with a lot of the river rock and the high iron content of some of the rocks that are buried in the the levels of compaction and things and roadways and
you find, especially in the Phoenix area, I guess where we had the old, which is now a dry riverbed, more or less, that they would go down and collect. When I say collect, not by hand, but they would bring
not quite
in a truck.
We have Tempe Lake now.
They would bring in truckloads of river rock to build up the low areas, and then they would bring in clean fill dirt and put over the top of this and make sure that everything is
building
compacted.
a levee.
Yes, compacted to the right compaction. And but when you're looking down through this strata with your ground penetrating radar, you aren't going to be able to see through the river rock because it sort of muddies the way everything looks, because the signal that you send down gets sent back up because this iron
it gets refracted rather than reflected.
Right. It just sends it back to you.
I'm impressed with
You
that.
understand?
I was in school some a few days.
So it's the equivalent of trying to look through a manhole cover.
Mm-hmm.
A manhole cover is solid metal, so it's going to reflect everything back. All the signal that you send down is going to come back immediately, and anything underneath that is going to be washed out so that you can't see anything but that initial object that you saw. So river rock has a tendency, it's not quite the same because it's not solid, but it still sends your signal back because it can't penetrate.
So how do you learn to understand river rock in Arizona as to what's underneath?
You really can't.
Is it 2/4, 4/4, or just a blues tune?
Neither of the above.
Well, it's river rock. I mean, there's all kinds of. Anyway, that fell.
So
dead air.
So there's a learning curve on that.
Absolutely.
Ray gave me this weird look.
And how long does it take to learn that type of activity?
Oh, gosh. Literally years. I mean, you practice as you go along, and you learn more and more every time you go out. But to get to the point where I can just go out and tell somebody within a few minutes of what I'm looking at, I'm not going to be of any use to you because you can't see beneath this particular depth.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that by experience. This is not in a book.
So what you're saying is that if you have this type of terrain, you really need Pegasus.
Yes,
because
you do.
of their years of experience.
Yes, you do.
In other words, you're not a fly-by-night.
No, we aren't. We've been around for many years.
Fly-by-night Pegasus.
We still fly.
But he does have wings.
We still fly because we have Pegasus wings, but we don't fly by night.
That's a Rush tune, a Rush album, by the way. Fly by Night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So we've got another section coming up yet. We're going to talk a little bit more about how the business has grown, the employees, and maybe what you're doing with those. And we'll be right back with you with Colission, Ray, and Zen. Thanks again for listening to Two Small Biz Guys. Welcome back to Two Small Biz Guys, and we're going to finish it up here this show with some discussion about, or some more discussion actually about Colission, and specifically, we were talking off air about how you train people, your attitude towards that, how you think it should be, and you've really got a wonderful attitude towards it. So,
thank you.
You're welcome. What do you think is most important about training and developing your employees so that they do the best?
What I like to do with my employees is they come in with basic knowledge, typically from some other company, and they've done the basic locating. But what really gets them to hang around with me a lot of times is that I give them the opportunity to delve deeper into the locating field than just the basics. That would be your leak detection, your fault locating, your ground penetrating radar.
So you plant the seeds and hope they ask more questions.
Yes.
So you're really a mentor is what you are.
I try very hard to mentor the people that work with me to grow.
See, I tell people I get to be a mentor in business, but I'm also a tormentor.
I think some of the people that I've dealt with over the years would say I'm a tormentor as well, because
Yeah, you seem a lot more laid back than
I
that.
do have my way of doing
not the highway
things and
low
and
way,
locating.
your way.
And
We're back to the default or the fault locating.
okay.
Right.
Well,
The no fault locating.
if you want to talk about
No,
fault
But
locating,
when you say have your way, is that developed over years or?
my way is something that has worked, or the process that has worked for me over 20 years plus. And if it's worked for me for that long and kept me in business, then I think I'm doing something right. I don't think anyone does everything right, but I have to do something right to still be in the industry and still in business and still making a living after 22 years.
Well, you mentioned something earlier about, you learn something every day.
Every single day. And it doesn't matter if, it can be a new person that comes in and he has an idea. Well, I may not agree with his idea, but it is my policy to listen to all the ideas that people come or bring to me. It does not mean that I'm going to change my way of doing things, but sometimes I
But you
find
might
that
adjust it slightly.
I might adjust because I see some value in what they're saying.
Right.
So even from someone that does not necessarily know as much as I think I know, that does not mean that I can't learn something from
Sometimes
them.
I found that sometimes people that have no clue what they're doing or little
Sometimes.
will ask the simplest questions.
Which spurs you on to think.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because they don't know. And what you don't know, you don't know. And so
you get an epiphany is what you get many times when
Epiphany?
Epiphany, right.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to spell it, but I can say it. But the aspect is that all of a sudden somebody asks a question and you have like a revelation that something opens up. And
That's
you say,
an epiphany, not epiphany.
No, be careful.
Oh, you're talking about epiphany.
Well,
you're saying that.
That's what we call the aha moment. Aha moment. You get that aha moment where, oh my gosh, now I understand.
Right.
Whether it's me or the person that I'm working with and trying to teach a new portion of the underground utility locating services to, you get that moment where the light bulb comes on and all of a sudden there's illumination. And you can understand better what I'm talking about, or I get where they're coming from.
And it's great to see that spark in the eyes.
Oh, absolutely. I don't like the look of a deer in the headlights because you haven't
or the
gotten
shades
through.
drawn.
You haven't gotten through if you see the blank stare on someone's face.
Right.
But all of a sudden when that light bulb comes on, there's a smile that would come over a person's face. I got it. I understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
But also, when you have that light bulb come on, you must have that because you've done some very, very big, prestigious projects. So the light bulb has to be there, and your people have to be.
And it's usually above ground.
Pardon?
And it's usually above ground.
Yeah, I know that. Only so they can see below ground.
Right.
But the premise is that they must enjoy and learn so that you have the capability to do these projects because you need a certain amount of staffing to do that, of qualified staffing.
Yes. And most of the time the qualified staffing comes from actually training those individuals because there is nowhere to go and find people that have in-depth training. And that's one of the things that I want to do. I really want to start a school and work with the utility companies such as those SRPs and Cox and Southwest Gas.
Is there like an
whatever.
internship to do this? Or
No, there isn't. There is no actual certification required to do this except for being willing to take the lumps and bumps that it takes to learn how to do the job.
Well, sounds like he's got a dream. I guess he's going to be it.
I have an
He's going to be
additional
the
dream.
dream.
I have an additional dream of starting a school to train people.
Good for you. So you're going to become a possibilities coagulator.
Oh, you
I'll
like
try.
that word.
He's going to put people, places, and things together to do stuff.
Yes, and I'd like to put people together to do this stuff all over the world.
So how do the large utility companies, where they need this, isn't there a shortage of people who have the capability to do it for
No,
them?
the large utility companies usually subcontract their work out to other companies that only deal with mainly the public utilities. But we deal with the difference between the public utilities and what the subcontractors for the public utilities and what we do is they take care of the utility companies' assets. We, as a private utility locating firm, are there to guard against damage by the contractor and to save them money, to help them to increase their bottom line by not having to pay out money for damages that are incurred by hit utility.
Okay, so you're really in the protection business.
We are in the damage prevention business.
He's in the asset protection.
We are in the damage prevention business. Absolutely.
Not protection business, but damage prevention.
Damage prevention.
Right. Well,
that sounds like a more political astute statement.
Right. He's in the asset, protection business.
Damage prevention, please.
Yeah, those darn damages. I had something. It's gone.
Oh, okay.
Comes with age.
Rare moment. Hey, I'm younger than the two of you. If this is going to do it, I don't know what's coming up. Oh, I know what I was going to say. There's with the depth and width and breadth of what you've been doing over these years, you've really got the massive experience that not too many folks have. But it's not just applied to the large corporations and companies. You do local work too. And for those of you who might need it or might even need Colission as a sub for your projects, you can go to www.pegasusutility.com. That's PEGASUSUTILITY.
That's PEGA.
What did I say?
You said J.
Did I? P-A? Ooh. Oops. Okay. I sit corrected. And you can reach him at 602-278-9168 or 602-499-5024. And he also has contact information on their website.
And you don't have to use a www if you choose not to.
No, you don't. You can put in HTTP and it'll be there or not. That's the interesting thing about the web. And you really have a lot of information. I've been to your website. You've got a lot of information there. I can tell that through the articles and things that I've seen, you've been around, you've done your homework, you know what you're doing, you've got a lot of respect in the construction community, and we thank you for being with us this evening.
And we are working on making our website even more user-friendly.
Awesome.
And we appreciate the enlightenment, even though it's underground.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
So thanks so much. You've been listening to Two Small Biz Guys, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good evening.
Thanks again.